So we are preparing to live stream, setting up our meeting. All right.
Yes, we are live.
That looks good. Hello, everyone. I'm going to change it to speaker view. Welcome on this beautiful Wednesday. Yeah, thank you for joining us for this conversation. I am Laura Miller. I'm the Volunteer and Community Engagement Manager for Justine, and Justine is formerly Madison Area Urban Ministry. That name kind of rings a bell to different people, I think. But our mission at Justine is to help transform individual lives and social systems to create a just and equitable community. We're delighted to welcome you to the 6th session of our 2021 Just Conversations series. Is that true? Or is this
May, so 5.
It's the 5th one, sorry.
5th month, 5th
I got ahead of myself. So our community engagement team envisioned this series to engage our neighbors in discussion around important, timely issues that are affecting our community. And our hope was to keep these in more of a conversational format, hence the name Just Conversations, and really focused on kind of creating solutions as opposed to just stating the problems. So logistical items, we're streaming this live on our Facebook page. Welcome to those joining us on Facebook. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with us, please feel free to drop those in the comments on Facebook. If you're with us right here in Zoom, you can do the exact same thing in the chat function. And I'll be monitoring both of them. And we'll hopefully use about the last 20 minutes or so to answer some questions that haven't been addressed yet. So now, without delay, I'm going to send it over to Carmela Glenn, Just Bakery Program Coordinator, to get the conversation started with introductions. Carmela?
Thanks, Laura. I'm excited for this conversation too. I've been planning this since we decided conversations, like, when am I going to get these people in the room? I want them in the room together. And so I'm excited it's here tonight, and excited to dig in. For me personally, I would rather have people do their self-introduction of telling us a little bit about yourself. So I'm just going to call on you and let you guys introduce yourselves, and then really kind of start digging in, because I got lots of questions, and I want to take us on a journey. I've got a little bit of a journey for us. So Alex, since you're right there.
Knew you were going to call on me. Hi, everyone. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. My name is Alex Lindenmeyer, and I am the co-owner of a breakfast spot downtown Madison called Short Stack Eatery. And what else do you need to know about me? We've been doing our thing downtown for a little over 7 years. And I've been knowing Carmela 4 or 5 years now. And we've been working together ever since in a multitude of fashions, collaborating both our organizations and personally, to figure out how we can do a better job as humans here in this community. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And I will popcorn to Dave.
Hello, thanks for popcorning to me. I haven't even heard that expression before, but I appreciate it. It's really good. And it's food related, which is like double win. Yeah, so I'm Chef Dave. I own Liliana's and Little John's. We've been helping to kind of fix the face of food insecurity. And I've been really excited getting to really do as much as we can to help be involved with the Just program, especially the Just Bakery, through Little John's, and just found a recent but amazing friendship with Carmela, and super excited to be here. So thank you guys again so much for having us on board.
Thank you for coming. And Representative Hung, I had to say that for the first time. I always say Francesca. I always say Francesca, like Representative.
Well, I'm going to give you the same spiel I give everyone else. Please call me Francesca. Good evening, everyone. My name is Francesca Hong. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so stoked to share space with you all today and to be a part of this amazing panel with Chef Dave and Alex. And thank you, Lara, and thank you, Carmela, for hosting this. I am the co-owner of Morris Ramen in downtown Madison, and also the representative for the 76th Assembly District, which encompasses parts of the university up to Edgewood College, and basically through East Wash, including Tenny Lapham neighborhood, Marquette, Darbo, Eakin Park, and that's kind of the cutoff for us there. I have been involved in food system work and in the food industry for the past 15 years. I'm born and raised in Madison and very proud to be a community member here, but also know that we have a lot of work to do in terms of how we think about our food systems, how we treat each other, and how food really is a way to connect and build community. But how we do that is really important. So excited to get into this conversation. And again, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you for being here. So actually, Francesca led me into my very first question on our journey of this evening, which is, why hospitality for all of you? Why? What made you decide that you wanted to jump into the world of ownership or working in, and just why hospitality? So let's go backwards. How about Francesca, you lead it?
I think this is a space where I can be very real.
Very real.
My first job was as a hostess in a small Korean American restaurant on the west side in Madison. And it was owned by a Korean couple that were family friends. And I watched them struggle operating the restaurant. And then I watched them close the restaurant. And I still felt like I was a part of something. And that I belonged. I'm not exactly sure how I can describe it, but the restaurant space was one of the first places where I really did feel like I belonged. And so throughout the early part of the career, I tried school, I tried working full time, and I found myself working in hospitality in the end. And I think it's because service for me has always been a way to connect with others, to learn more about myself. I think the hospitality and service industry inherently allows you not to center yourself. And when you don't, you are more successful. And so for me, being in the hospitality industry, being in the service sector, figuring out how not to center myself and serve others to also better me is why I've stayed in it. And I think why we have this ability in the service industry to be able to connect with people and work with our hands and bring a sense of community and as well as nourishment. And I think all those things make the hospitality industry really great. But these days I'm also thinking about what's not so great about it. So
and we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. So I think for me, service is a really a great way to learn more about yourself by not centering yourself.
I love that answer. It's and it reminds me of why Justine chose to go into that as our employment training. That I just did an interview today. Someone asking me about an announcement that I'll share later, but asking me why food, and it was like, have you ever been in a kitchen? It's all different people, and there's not the judgment, and it's fast, and it's not about you, and it's about others, and it's about serving, and it's about doing it great, and it's about acceptance. And yes, so thank you for that answer. I agree. Chef, so I guess I can't say that on this call. Chef Dave.
There's totally judgment in our kitchens, but like usually from a good place.
Yes.
So like for me, the reason I chose to do a restaurant in the first place and what got me excited about it wasn't as much the hospitality side as it was that for me, food has always been how I express love. Like it's how I give someone a hug without interfering in their personal space. I think there's this amazing ability as a chef to be able to have a physical reaction on someone without ever touching them or seeing them. And I think COVID's been a great example of that. I never thought I'd be running a takeout restaurant, but hey, for the last year, I've been a takeout restaurant where we went from doing about 2% to 1% of our total sales to 100% all takeout. And I think the thing I miss is being able to watch that effect on people. And I think every chef who's watching or listening or a part of this panel has that same thing. Like we picked something that we were passionate about and we loved watching the reaction that people have when they taste our product, because it's how we give love to people. And the example I use all the time is like everyone understands that feeling. And my proof of that is think about when you're at home and you take like a flour tortilla and like 3 pieces of crappy American cheese and you microwave it and you lie to yourself and tell yourself that's a quesadilla, right? Like that is garbage food, but we've all done it, right? But like if your best friend since high school or your mom or your favorite person in the world was coming over, would you ever serve them that microwave piece of crap garbage? No, because when we give people food, that's our way of saying I love you. And that's also how we pass on traditions and stories and our familial background, and who we are is in those dishes. Like a great example, I know Tori's not on this call right now, but Tori Miller at Latois, right? Like he's got a restaurant that's Gray's. It's a burger place that's a bar food. And one of his best-selling dishes is bibimbap. You know, like it's a way for him to express something that really means a lot to him in a dish that really doesn't have any business belonging on there, but it's one of the best-selling dishes on his menu because it's the dish that for him is like made with love. And so everyone can feel and taste and experience his heritage and his culture in that one dish. So I know all of us have those dishes, but that was just one I was thinking of off the top of my head. But anyway, that was why for me was just like being able to make people happy has always been my go-to, and I can always do it easier with food than my crappy dad jokes.
Thanks, Dave. Alex.
Mine, a lot of my reasons are pretty similar to y'all's. I, like Francesca, college dropout, school didn't really work out for me. Been in the service industry for 15, 16 years now. And kind of to echo what she said, like we're a band of misfits, we're weirdos, we're lovable losers, it's kind of all, especially in the kitchen. I mean, I think there's a reason why they don't let me out front. Yeah. But I can definitely share that sentiment where like a kitchen was the first time I felt like I was on a team that I belonged on. And I think it was also environment where it's really feels really natural for people that like fast paced and like you're forced to be quick on your feet and you're forced to be good in crisis and be good in an emergency room setting. And so I think anybody that works in a kitchen kind of feeds off that energy too, that weird sick energy. I'm not sure why. And yeah, and then I think kind of why I chose to be an owner or do my own thing, and breakfast specifically was kind of what Dave said of like, it's a love language for sure. And breakfast food specifically is super nostalgic. People are really specific about how they take their coffee and how they like their eggs. And there's something about breakfast food at any time of day that's super nostalgic. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to the idea of your mom or dad or guardian making you breakfast for dinner when you were a kid, and something super safe about it. So feels super safe. And again, my love language too. And lastly, I think like most other people that identify as women, you know, we've continued to see an industry that's run by like brutal men, especially kitchens. And so I kind of made it my own personal goal that like, I refuse to be that person in the kitchen that is throwing pans and screaming and making people feel unsafe. That's just not the kind of vibe that my organization is about. And so we were super intentional about that from the beginning of creating a space that the goal is safety. And so I think that if you don't have the space yourself, you try to create it, right? So yeah, we wanted to create something that felt safe and fun and get to see people smile over coffee and eggs. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, all of you are doing such a great job at it. And I have such mad respect for you. And yes, I agree. Like Dave said, there's judgment there, there's judgment there. But like you said, it's the band of, and I want to be, not use deficit for me, at least. I think you guys can say it. I'll say for those that have struggles, that I see people who are, recently released from prison, currently in prison, struggling with mental health, struggling with substance use, and feel safe in the kitchens, at least I send them to. So, and accepted and not feel like they have to pretend to be something that they're not. So the next question, and this one's going to be loaded, and I know this is where we're going to start digging in a little bit, because all of you, the reason I had all of you here is you guys run restaurants. All of you owners, and yet decided that you were going to do social good on top of that. You were going to give back to your community, and I want to know why. And I will start with Dave. Why did you say, I work 80 hours a week running a restaurant and all of the stuff that comes with that, but I am going to decide to do training and worry about the food system and all of this social good things? Why?
Oh, I just think about the good old days when it was just 80 hours a week. Those were nights. Those were so good. I know everyone else on this with me can agree. I don't think that there is an off time for being a restaurateur anymore. I think if I hear the word pivot one more time, I'm gonna scratch my ears out. Even though I'm the one using it sometimes. But like, so for me, and I know everyone has their different reasons for doing it, but for me, my wife and I have always decided since we opened Liliana's, which was 14 years ago now, we decided that we were gonna cap my salary at a whopping $50,000 a year. So that's what I make. And even when I was running Charlie's, I never had an additional salary because we were like, hey, with my wife working and with us running the restaurants, we can afford to pay for our house and set a tiny bit aside for our family, but the rest of it we can put back into the community. So every year up until 2020, we were putting about $100,000 to $120,000 worth of effort back into the community since day one. I don't think you'll ever see a gala or a fundraiser without Liliana's or Charlie's on Main there. Always
You're freezing up a little bit, Dave.
Part of the community.
Technology, woo, we love it, right? It makes our life better. There he goes. All right, so just for technical until we get him back, Laura, will you just mute him for me for a minute, just in case he comes back and starts talking, and then once he's not frozen, I'll come back to him. So, Alex, why social good?
Is he back? Oh.
Chef, is he? It looks like he froze again. Dave, are you back?
I'm back. I think I'm gonna go inside and try and find some good Wi-Fi in my house, and then I'll join back in a minute.
Sounds
if
great.
The other two want to go first. Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you.
This has been an ever-evolving mission, I think, for us as an organization. We always, before we opened, we knew that we had to support the community that supports us, that fills up our restaurant every day. We're part of this community. There's no way around it. And when we say community, we mean everybody. And so I think it's been an ever-evolving thing. We kind of opened our doors thinking like, oh, we'll partner with some nonprofits and this is what this will look like. And it just looks so vastly different now. I will assume it will look vastly different as the years go on. But I think it was pretty simple, pretty easy for us. We knew that we had to kind of have collaboration in order to get that support in return. And it was also something with the downtown Madison, as most of y'all know, is finicky, especially with students. It's like, we're interested in like the locals. Like, we want to be the place where the locals eat, and then like other people, if we let them in, kind of thing. But it's like, we always make that joke, like students will come and go and the campus will always be there, but we're really invested in the folks that live here and go to school here and educate their kids here and get out of prison here and call themselves members of the community, because that's what we call ourselves. So it was always a super simple concept. And we just, we're lucky enough that we have folks that we call friends that work in some great orgs and with some great agencies that we can continue to plug in where it makes the most sense. And, you know, we gain tenfold in return for the love and kind of like addition to our life. I mean, just you specifically, like, is a great example of like, it's pretty selfish, I guess, for me. It's like, my life is so much richer when I get to plug in and feel a part of something. So yeah, super simple for us.
Super simple. I'm just pretty cool. And you are, guys are so awesome. It's just who I am. That's why I love you. All right. So Francesca, so yours is even bigger, right? Not only do you doing social good, you decided to go into systems change. Why?
Well, I don't like to talk about deficits, but we are dealing with a lot of deficits because our government isn't holding themselves accountable and they're not investing in people. And restaurant work, yes, it's about the food, but it's most importantly about people. And when my partner and I first opened the restaurant, you know, we went in and said, all the different restaurants that we've worked in until our own, what was missing, what was wrong, what didn't work. And let's make sure that when we open ours, we make it work. And we realized a lot of the places that we worked, there wasn't always a holistic approach to making sure that there was like a mutual agreement between the community inside the restaurant and the community outside the restaurant. And we wanted to make sure we had a place that could connect those. And you connect those by doing social good. I think it was timely that, you know, we opened in 2016, which is a pretty traumatic thing happened in November of 2016 with the election of 45. And so within the first couple of months of opening, we knew that we had to do something to help our community process and grieve, because we were a part of it by being a restaurant. So there was a big Planned Parenthood fundraiser, and we were very fortunate to be able to partner with them on that. And, you know, I think we wanted to show that we were investing in our workers. We were pretty transparent about, you know, how we were treating folks. And, you know, the more we kept doing to build this on this community work, you know, we were barely able to make it. And we knew people wanted us open. They kept coming because they knew that we were also part of a broader community and trying to do social good and connect. And it wasn't, you know, it was still difficult. We ended up having to, you know, take away benefits and go to a different system of offering stipends. And I didn't want to do that. And I was like, why can't I raise prices of the food more? And it's like, well, you have Asian food, you have ramen, that's not supposed to be expensive. And things weren't always working. And I realized in order for me to try to make it work better, I needed to find people. I needed to invest in people. I needed to invest in community. And the way to do that was social good. So I think for me, it made sense to give back to the community. Like Alex said, it's as simple as that. It made sense to give back to a community that was giving to you. But then I ran for office because I realized there is a big part of the system that isn't showing up. We saw that when COVID first hit too, right? It was the mutual aid that was happening amongst organizations that were showing up. It was people talking to each other within the community and helping neighbors. And you know, I saw how mutual aid and community safety was being defined and acted on by community members. But there were still resources that were lacking, and that was because a lot of our government officials weren't meeting weren't showing up and weren't holding them accountable, specifically at the state level. And a lot of our folks at the local city and county levels were bearing more of the burden. And so I decided, we needed a little bit more hustle. We needed more people to hold themselves accountable, because restaurateurs are accountable all the time. Look at the Yelp reviews. So that's why I ran for office. Part of it was out of grief that our industry was hurting and hit really hard, and I knew we would be the last to open, and we needed a voice for folks in the service industry, but we also needed someone to just bring a sense of awareness to how much connection and community was happening, and that we need government to be able to support that work.
I have to tell you, when I saw you running and I saw that you were going for it, I was like, yes. I mean, just because having your face run, we know that we need to motivate people to run, right? We know we need people to start getting at the tables and in those harder spots inside the system. So many of us I've learned how to work outside of it and just get stuff done. And sometimes you got to go to that table. So very excited. So in asking you guys that, and I know that we're going to talk about some hard situations, but the reason you three are here is because each one of you are already doing the change. You represent the change that we're going to talk about that has that. And we're going to get to that of the feel good of this, of why I wanted to have the conversation with you all. But I think it's good to set the scene of, what drove each one of you to where you are and why, and those whys. So hi, Dave. So you came in perfect timing. Why social good?
Why social good? Oh, this is a question I was trying to do before. Yay!
This is that question.
Okay, good. Nailed it. Thanks, Francesca. Thanks, Alex. Sorry, my bad. Technology. I was trying to do the nice thing. I've got a 4-year-old, John, and I was trying to be out in the car so that you didn't have to have a 4-year-old running in every couple minutes. But I was like, you know what? It's COVID. You all get to meet John probably 40 times throughout this convo, and that's okay.
That's okay.
So why is social good? So what I was saying is we decided not to have our restaurant be about profitability. We took a small salary. We try and do as much as we can for the community. But in doing so, it actually had a secondary effect, which was we got to see the people that we were helping, and we got to see how much struggle there was in our community. And I think especially once COVID hit, there was really that well, shit, the government is taking its sweet time trying to help people. And the only way we were seeing any kind of impactful good happening was from the private sector. And so we were like, okay, well, let's just do it. So we were able to mobilize with Little John's. We were able to do, 36,000 meals over the course of 9 weeks. We were able to do that all with volunteers and 2 cooks. And the rest was all volunteer based. And we were packaging meals like crazy out of Charlie's, and it had an upstairs and a downstairs. But I guess, that's what's happened with COVID. But for me, it's always been, because you communicate with food, for me, the communication is always love-based. I kind of looked at it as that's one of the reasons why we did Little John's, is because so much of the food that we're giving to our most food insecure never says I love you. It says here's a calorie. And I think that's a big differentiator between us and a lot of other food insecurity things. And I know, Francesca, that was one of the things I loved about Cook It Forward too, is it was yeah, man, we gotta fix this broken restaurant industry, but we also need to feed people, and why not give them the best food they've ever had in their whole life? And that's kind of our perfect whole mission for Little John's, is that everyone can get the same quality and access to food and deliciousness that they'd get from Liliana's. Even if they don't have enough money to pay for food for them and their family, they could still have access to those healthy, delicious, fresh ingredients. And I guess the only other thing I'll say about that with food, and I'm just going to go on a Little John's tangent. Plus, I see one of my Little John's people, Megan's on board. Hey, Megan. But one of the biggest things for me was I saw Liliana's, and I was so proud of the ingredients. We work with a bunch of local farmers. We're buying fresh scallops. 10 count, 10 count with dry packed scallops and local farm meat, and it was all delicious and beautiful. And then I started thinking about the other restaurants that were in the area, not the ones that are on this call, but a Taco Bell or a McDonald's. And I thought about who eats there, and a majority of the people who eat at a Taco Bell, maybe 2% have ever eaten at Liliana's before, but a majority of them, haven't. And I think about all my Liliana's customers, and almost all of them have had that 2 o'clock in the morning drive through of shame, like I'll regret this in the morning, but I can still get Taco Bell. So the access was there for people who have to get anything they wanted. But if you were on the other end of that spectrum, you never had access to foods that were made with whole vegetables or real protein or anything that wasn't rehydrated meat product. So that's always been a thing of mine. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's what I got for you.
You always answer the question and tell a
It just
story
takes
with
a long
it.
time.
No. No, I think that that's important, right? Like everything that you said. And I often describe chefs like that. Like I either eat really good or really fast. And that tends to sometimes just be a middle of the night, what's open at 3 a.m. Like there's not really in between. Okay, so now we're going to dig in. You guys have talked about food systems. You've talked a little bit. Someone touched on the back of the kitchen. What do you guys see? What improvements? And I know about Short Stack's kitchen more, but how does hospitality improve? What do we do to improve hospitality for those? And what does the community need to understand as we're trying to improve it? Because sometimes that means dollars, right? That means paying well. That means offering benefits. That means taking care of your staff. And that sometimes reflects onto our community. So what does the community need to know as you three are fighting for systems change inside of the restaurant industry? And I'll start with Francesca.
We have to level parts. This is one of my least favorite sayings, but one that I think applies a lot to this whole conversation, is that we do have to level the playing fields for restaurants. And I mean that in a way where the standards are higher for worker pay and worker benefits, and understanding that the ecosystem of a restaurant is contingent on the health, both financial and physical and mental health of their workers. And in order to do this, it cannot just be on the small businesses and the restaurant owners. There really needs to be a collective effort in order to have a collective impact on the industry that in itself is very broken. And when we say it's broken, it's because we have, some of the really high rates of abuse, of addiction, of folks who aren't able to access resources to mental health, to help with their mental health. We know that it's been reliant on low wages and artificially low prices for food, and that it's connected to a broader system of where our food is coming from that's also broken. And so I think, at the center of all of it is the health of the worker. And so there needs to be, consequences for bad actors who aren't paying their workers well. But it's really difficult for the folks who are paying well to compete in that. And so when I say collective, I mean folks have to understand that pricing for food has been artificially low on those menus for a really long time. And we have to work collectively to shift that mindset of what am I paying for? You're paying to make sure that the workers at that restaurant are being given fair wages. You're paying for, if it may have been a migrant worker who has helped brought that food to the table. Until we figure out how to shorten our supply systems and making sure that, farms, especially small farms, are where we're getting a lot of our produce. Everything is connected. But I think it comes down to the health of workers and wages for workers that needs to be at the kind of the top of the priority list. And in order to do that, folks may have to see price increases on menus, but know that those increases are somewhat artificial because things have been very low for a very long time. And I hope we can take more of a collective mindset in making our restaurant industry healthier. Starts and ends with making sure that the workers' financial and mental health is taken care of.
Thank you. Yes, I 100% agree. And in saying that, Alex, I know that we've had this conversation a lot, so I kind of know your answer, but want to share for everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, my answer is so similar to Francesca's. I don't have much else to add. I think, people just, if they complain about prices of food, you are so directly showing how much you value us as the people that cook it for you. I can relate to that whole like ramen's supposed to be cheap shit, like breakfast food. People are like $10 for a breakfast sandwich. It's like, yeah, dude. I think people just, again, they just kind of show their face pretty quick about how they value us as workers. The one thing I'll add is I think there's also this toxic culture within the restaurant industry, especially in kitchens, where it's been so bad for so long that, you know, you have these people that work themselves up the ranks and then open their own restaurants, and then they just end up kind of repeating that same culture to their workers that they had, you know, that whole mindset like, well, when I was a line cook, I was paid jack shit and had to work 90 hours a week and I turned out fine. It's like, bro, you didn't turn out fine. If that's your mindset, like, no, you didn't. The goal here is to make it better for the next folks. And so I think that's another thing too, is this like toxicity within the culture, and almost this like bragging rights of how bad you had it as a worker kind of thing, or how many hours you worked in a kitchen, or how many of your chefs threw pans at you and shit. And it's just like, we got to get away from that too within our own industry. We're kind of forcing it upon ourselves too, I think. So yes, the public needs to value us, but we definitely need to value ourselves more too. I kind of think it starts there. It starts with ownership of places and kind of top down effect, but everything else, it's exactly what Francesca said. She's right on. So I got nothing more to add.
Well, I think too, exactly what you two said, and then I'll go on to Dave, and I think that's why I have such mad respect for the three of you in the room, is because I've learned and watched you be able to do that. And as a collective, getting all the industry, like it can't just be the three of you, right? And we know there's other people that are trying to make change, but I think it's important for people to understand that there are people out there that value, I mean, you know, Alex has went through peer training, and we've talked about resources and how you support all of your employees by, like Francesca had shared, there's people that struggle with mental health and substance use disorders. And so reaching out to agencies to be able to support them, because, you know, it's not your wheelhouse. And so Dave, do you agree with what Francesca and Alex said, the same around what needs to improve in the hospitality? Or do you have
No, they're both totally wrong. I don't agree with any of it. The restaurant industry is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. I say more abuse, the better. No, I'm totally kidding. No, totally spot on. I agree 100%. I think the other thing that's really hard is that a lot of it isn't on the restaurant. A lot of it's on the consumer. And that's really hard to try and, how do you educate a consumer without sounding like you're preaching at them, or then they just turn off and they don't engage at all, right? So how do you engage with them? And I'll give you a great example is greenwashing, right? Like, how often do you we support local, and I'm like, okay, how? And you talk to them and you're like, oh yeah, like that Cisco truck that comes up every day, like just because it's based in Baraboo doesn't mean that is local. And I have these three little things for you guys, okay? So I try to explain it in like a friendly way. So I want you to picture this, right? Like Liliana's, it's got a good restaurant. We've won like some good awards and stuff like that. But picture this, you come into Liliana's and I tell you, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to create a chef special for you tonight. You came into my restaurant. First time you're like in my restaurant, I want to make this perfect for you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a chef special surprise, and 100% of the ingredients that I'm going to do in this dish for you are made 100% right here in Wisconsin. It's going to be all that, and it's only $16. You down? And I bet you a majority of you would say like, yeah, that sounds good. $16 and I get an all local experience. That sounds fantastic. Well, what if you come into my restaurant and on a plate, I've got 2 slices of country hearth bread, a slice of Kraft American cheese, you know, a couple of slices of Oscar Mayer bologna, and a Miller Lite, right? Now, I didn't lie to you, right? It was all local. I mean, it's all made within 100 miles of the restaurant. Like, it's all a local product. But is that really what you thought? No, man, that's greenwashing. And I'll give you another example. What if you're like, okay, like that was really stupid. I shouldn't have fallen for that. And you come back to Liliana's one more time. And you're like, Dave, I'm going to give you one more chance. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a special for you. 100% of my ingredients are going to come from within 30 miles of my restaurant. And that's my promise to you. I'm going to purchase it all locally. And I promise you're going to have a beautiful, wonderful experience. And you're like, okay, cool. I hear you. I'm down. Let's do it. And I drive over to Walmart and I buy all my groceries and cook it for you. Well, I was honest, wasn't I? Like, I purchased 100% of my ingredients all from within 30 miles of my restaurant. I was being honest with you. But is that what you thought? No, man. Like there's greenwashing happening like crazy, especially in Madison. And I think it's especially hard because we have so many restaurants where we are trying to work with local, right? And it's okay to not work with local, but just don't say you're working with local and then not do it, right? And so one of my frustrations with all of that comes from the fact that the consumer isn't putting on themselves the necessity to educate themselves and find out what's real and what's not, right? Like it's really easy. Like go to your restaurant, and if a server doesn't know like one of the farmers you work with, the chef probably isn't working with any local farms, right? Like it's pretty easy to find out. If like you ask the chef, like ask your server next time you're at a restaurant, like what are a couple of the farms that the chef uses? And if they come back and they're like, one of them is like Awesome Farms. Well, great, man. Like Awesome Farms is a potato farm with like 300 trillion tons of potatoes a year. That's not really like the local I was thinking of. And it's not that they're a bad company, but I think one of the biggest problems is the challenge of we need to support local, but actually understanding what supporting local looks like and really asking like, is this a restaurant that does take care of its servers? Is this one that does offer benefits? Is this one that does offer like, a pay? We actually, with COVID, we switched our whole pay structure at Liliana's now. So we do a 20% service charge. And I think you guys are also doing that too, right? Alex and Francesca, you guys are doing something different than just a traditional like $2.33 an hour thing. Like, didn't you guys? I don't know. Anyway, we switched over. We did a 20% service charge, and then we actually made our starting wage for all of our staff $15 an hour, no matter what. And then we split the gratuity between the kitchen and the front of house. We take 10% for the house to account for the wage, and we take the other 10% and we split it among all the staff. So everyone, especially people in the back, because Alex, I know you agree, and Francesca, both you guys were in the back of house. The kitchen almost always got shit on. The front of house would be like, man, we just made like $600 tonight. And we're like, asshole, I've been here since like 7 in the morning, and I'll be here until 11 o'clock at night doing your dishes, and I'm gonna walk out of here with maybe $100 if I'm lucky. So anyway, I rambled. So I'm
Oh, you
gonna end
didn't
right
ramble
there.
because you actually asked the question that I was going to ask is the second part of that is what are you doing personally? And you just said, so you kind of answered the question I was going to have you follow
Oh,
up
good. So I
with.
took up the time of 2 questions with 2 questions of answers. Yay.
Always.
I did it.
I have found as we're getting to know each other that usually that's a really good thing I can expect from you, that you are going to answer me and you're going to pop into my head and you're going to answer the next one. And I like that.
I did it.
All right.
That sounds
So
really
Alex,
creepy, but yeah.
Alex, what has Short Stack done to be different inside of what needs to change? But why are you the change? How are you being the change?
I think one big way is our service model. We very, 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 very intentionally from the second we opened our doors, never had servers because of what Dave said. That model is intrinsically exploits servers, exploits workers, and and servers are majority women historically. And so we've never had servers nor paid server wage, and we've always split tips between both houses. And so I think that by design or by model, we've always wanted to have that mindset of like, no job here is more important. Okay, maybe like our dishwasher is like the most important person in the restaurant, but everybody knows that. But I think that's one thing. And then benefits, we pay 100% of our employees' healthcare. And it's just, we got to make sure people are staying healthy and getting what they need. And I think that we have to just continue, like Dave said about a service charge. I think it's what those kinds of things have to keep happening so that employers can provide these things for their folks, because the overhead's just so expensive. And again, if people care about where their food comes from and who's cooking it, they got to show up and pay these prices. And that's just the reality of it. So I think just keep continuing to educate the public on what it costs to have a healthy work environment. And if you don't want to pay it, again, you kind of show your face of who you value and who you don't.
Love it. Thank you. Francesca.
So we did start with a pretty traditional model when we opened. Servers, host, general manager, and then cooks, dishwashers. And we were, I think, very fortunate that from the beginning, we made it very clear that there would not be a divide, that there would, everyone needed to treat each other with respect, and that I didn't want to hear too much about back of the house, front of house. I wanted to hear more about us being one house, and how are we, even with the different positions, working with one another to make sure that we're holding up one house. Right after COVID hit and we realized that we wouldn't be doing service anymore, we had everyone go to a straight $15 an hour wage, and we trained folks who were traditionally more from the housers on the service guest side, pick up a knife and figure out how to start. And we trained them in on prep, and folks who were working in the back of the house had to start figuring out how to talk to customers over the phone. And so we cross-trained everyone in the restaurant, and became, just fully carry out and delivery, with folks also all working together to do community meals. It's kind of how Cook It Forward started, and we've been able to develop some really fantastic relationships with other organizations who have been doing the work to tackle food insecurity for years and years, and we just needed to figure out a way to help and supplement that. And we were fortunate, again, to be able to really have every person in the restaurant feel like they had both the purpose of serving inside of the restaurant and also serving their community. It helped so much with morale. It helped so much in terms of navigating the restaurant through COVID. And I think, we're not going to go back. We're getting ready to open up. We're still keeping that straight $15 an hour model with shared tips. And then, we'll be we're going to have to do some menu pricing adjustments to be able to sustain that. But outside of, I think moving forward, we're going to continue to uphold the model of being one house. And I think that's really the healthiest and most holistic way we can sustain the restaurant.
I love that. So I know that, so in living in the life of a restaurant owner and a representative, Francesca has a busy schedule and is going to not be able to stay on with us the whole time. So I have a very loaded last question for you before we go. And it's going to be like the 6 or 7 that I'm going to ask them once you do. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put this. I'm wondering if before you go, could you talked a little bit about COVID, talk about what was learned from COVID and what we could all learn. One of the biggest things is, right, we like to eat out even when we're stuck at home and we can't go anywhere, and we want good food and we want to fast and we want that. So and you talked a little bit about the pivot, Dave. And we talked about that, but what did you learn from COVID? And then 2-part question. How would you describe Madison, and what does our community need to learn?
Damn, Carmela. All right.
That is so loaded.
Well,
I'm just going to chime in. That is so loaded. But I'm going to sit back here and just
I
watch
love
you
it.
handle
No.
that as a politician.
All of you can handle it. All of you.
So we're still in COVID, and I think it's going to be even more difficult navigating the many transitions of moving forward from COVID and with it too, than it was just being in the thick of it. And what I mean by that is that, especially being in the hospitality industry and someone who thrives off being in an organized chaos, responding to crisis, I mean, you are reacting, and you can kind of put in little stopgaps or band-aids and say, well, we're in a crisis, so this is how we're going to make it work. But are we actually building for something that's bigger and more sustainable? And that work takes a lot more time and thought, but it's hard when you've got people who I think are kind of in 3 categories now. It's, I want to get back to normal. It's, I want to get back to a new normal, or is it, I want to get back to a better normal? And I think restaurants have a really big part to play in this, because we're having, and I think we can only do that again by centering workers and the health of workers. And and consumer education, as Dave mentioned before. So what did I learn from COVID? I'm still learning a lot, but I know that our communities can be incredibly active and resilient while grieving. I think it's important to acknowledge that we went through a lot of grief this past year. We're still grieving, and we're still seeing so much action come out of it. And so that is something to really celebrate and feel very accomplished about. You know, Cook It Forward came out of a space of grief. My wanting to run for office came from a space of grief. To know that there are opportunities that can come out of crisis, I think it's very important to keep that idea strong. How can we work towards a better normal without having to try to quickly get as much of the normal back that we had before? And this is where I actually kind of think about nostalgia a lot. Alex had mentioned, you know, how breakfast food is really brings a sense of nostalgia. And I think one of the most powerful things about food is that it can evoke memory. Some of the most delicious, most profound meals that I've had is because I've had a bite of something and it takes me back to my backyard with doing Korean barbecue with brats and eating brats with samjang, which is a fermented Korean soybean paste. You know, if a dish that a chef made can take me back, that's the kind of connection and power food has, right? So we want to keep those parts. We want to keep the parts of keeping workers healthy. We want to avoid going back to you know, how do we build from not having an industry that is rooted in a lot of racist systems and institutions into something that can be about really powerful connection and community. But in order to do that, we again have to work very collectively. It's going to take consumer education. It's going to take responsible restaurant owners standing up and doing the right thing for their workers. And it's going to take, you know, an understanding that the status quo of, you know, white male toxicity that has been very prevalent in restaurants. You know, how are we all collectively thinking about uplifting those who have been underserved and aren't represented in our restaurant industry? How do we deal with anti-Blackness in the restaurant industry? All of these things we have to meet in order to work towards a better normal. And we're going to constantly be tempted by the old normal that was so great about, you know, eating out and you know, hanging out with friends inside restaurants. But I think there's just the politics of this. They're not going to divorce. They're always going to be there. And I hope people, when they go to restaurants, are very mindful about how important restaurant is to the community. What type of restaurant are you going to? You know, we're all really connected in this, and we all should be working towards a better normal. What do I think of Madison? I think Madison inherently, and I'm part of it as a lifelong Madisonian, I'm part of this problem. And I think we suffer from what I've heard before called analysis paralysis. We think a lot and we don't always go towards what the simple action to move us forward might be. And so I hope with working towards a better normal that we all take more of the simple actions and being kinder to one another, in recognizing that, you know, an inconvenience for you, a discomfort for you is actually, you know, maybe figure out why you're uncomfortable in a situation, why you're uncomfortable with a business talking about Black Lives Matter, that we're looking inwards and still helping our neighbors, that when we go to restaurants, we're thinking about what types of restaurants we go to, how are they treating their workers? That type of analysis is, I think, really good and makes Madison really special. But when we take action, you know, whether that be taking, you know, when we take action, I hope that it's with we take action and that action is rooted in kindness. And I think that kindness can be led by those in the restaurant community. I really do.
I 100% agree with you. Thank you so much. I know that you have to leave us, and I so appreciate your time. I know you are so busy, and we will connect soon. And thank you for doing all that you do. Thank you so much for showing up here tonight and for always being willing to dive into deep and heavy conversations. And I appreciate you very much.
I also love your bookcase, by the way. It's a really good bookcase. It's really good. I was like looking at all the titles. I was like, I have like 80% of those books, and like they're good books. You got a good bookcase.
So much love to you all. Thank you so much for having me. Just really, really good to share space and be in community with folks. I think, Carmela, happy anniversary.
Yes, it's my anniversary, 10 years today. Thank you, Francesca. I
What?
appreciate that. And I would love to spend it here. I don't, the other half. Yeah.
Y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much.
you.
We'll talk soon.
All right, you two. So that means you get the rest of the hard questions. All right, so let's
I gotta
back it
take
up.
off then.
Let's back it up to COVID. So COVID hits, it's here. You're running a restaurant. What happens? And then we're going to talk about COVID a little bit, dig in with you two, COVID a little bit during how you pivoted and how you supported your community during, protesting during that time. We had a lot last year, right? We had a lot come up, and both of you were very integral pieces of it. So let's start with Dave. COVID comes. You had a lot of changes last year.
Yeah, I took up hobbies like drinking, crying, sleeping a lot, mild depression. I mean, they were all really good, good new things I hadn't done before. So it was nice to try some new activities. It was really good. No, all joking aside, it was a really hard year, man. Like, I think a lot of us are feeling better now. I don't think any of us feel like it's fixed or that things are great or back to normal. But like, especially right at the beginning, we had no idea that there'd be things like PPP or PPP round 2 or Employee Retention Tax Credit or Restaurant Recovery Act or like any of the things that have come down the pipeline. It was really like, I'm gonna lose my restaurant. Like, I don't think anyone didn't think. I mean, like, so anyone on this call who isn't a restaurateur or doesn't know a restaurateur, there are very, very, very few restaurants that can make it more than about 2 or 3 weeks without income, without having to close their doors forever. We all live, not just our employees, but each restaurant lives very paycheck to paycheck. It's not until you get into like a franchise model or you've been around so long and you've like really got the whole formula figured out or whatever that you ever really have some sort of security or safety net. I think a lot of us who worked our way through the industry grew up without a safety net, so we were used to it. Like, how are you going to do payroll? I don't know, man. Let's have a good Friday night. Like, I mean, that was like, I know Alex is laughing because like we've all been there, right? Like, especially during the slow months, where we're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I have like this, like, so I have like my 50,000, which is great, right? And I have my little check that I get, just like my employees do. And man, and my wife does not love this part about me being a restaurateur, but there are definitely times where we call it the stack, which is like, how many of those checks can we have before we can like put one in? And COVID was definitely a test to how much weight our little check holder could carry during COVID, because we didn't know, and so it was really scary. But I think the thing that kept me going was we kept trying to think about how everyone else must feel, right? And what I mean by that is, yeah, it was scary, but guess what? We had a restaurant with like food in it. Like, we could eat food. Like, we have amazing support in the community. We have like loving parents who are going to take care of us if something bad were to happen, like we lost our house. Like, we have a safety net. We have our staff love us and would have worked. I never would have let them do it, but they all would have worked for free for months as long as they could have afforded it, just to make sure we stayed through. Like, our staff are our family. I know, Alex, it's the same way with you guys, right? Like, we're all part of a group, we're all part of a family, and they all would have done anything to help us. But then we started thinking about like, man, what about some of these families where like they were literally like so paycheck to paycheck, they had nothing in their accounts, things that already, remember, if you were in the service industry, things weren't good for like a month and a half or 2 months before the slowdown, like the shutdown. We had like reduced capacity. We had people who were worried about going out to eat. Like, things definitely started. It's not like we were like balls to the wall busy and then instant stop. It was like a gradual slowdown. So people were already at the point of like, where is our next meal going to come from? And then the shutdown hit, and especially people in our industry, man, like, they don't have checking accounts. Like they have what cash they have in their wallet, and then like what they're going to spend that night, and then maybe some of them have an extra account that they put their rent in just so they make sure they have it come rent time. You know, when this shutdown happened, we thought we were going to have 2 weeks, 3 weeks of like closed doors, and even then people were panicking. So we just went into full gear. We got 2 days after the shutdown happened, we got a call from Reach Dane, which helps with the Head Start program in Dane County, and they basically help kids age 3 to 5 who come from um, homes that are not at the same level of support as other families. So basically, they're trying to get a head start for them so that they can enter kindergarten at the same level as a kid who maybe had more support, right? So we wanted to, they were really worried because 98% of the kids in the Reach Dane program come from food insecure homes, and a majority of the food that they got came from the school. And later on, the MMSD started opening it up to any child, but at the beginning, the only food that was available for kids enrolled in the MMSD program. So there was no food access for so many of these kids, and they were really worried about it. So they asked us if we would help them out, and we didn't realize how many kids were in that program, but it was like 840 kids. All they were worried about, are they going to have any food? So we put these big meals together to try and help them out. I could go on forever about COVID, man. Like it was horrible, but I think the good from it. Oh, we also did the other project we did was our Nom 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 box, which we're going to be launching again. We're super excited, but it was a way to help local farms. We basically put together meal kits and worked with local chefs to put together a dish with local farmers to help our farmer stream. And that actually ended up totally screwing us on the restaurant recovery fund, because they look at your total receipts, and that program was a part of it. We put 200 and some $1,000s into the farming community, but we only made about, I think $78 was my total profit on that, and I didn't take any money from it. So we would have, the way the Restaurant Recovery Act worked, we would have made 200 and some $1,000s in just pure cash into our restaurant coffers if we had just not helped out in the community, and we ended up getting nothing. And so I think, I guess my summation for COVID is that everyone I know who I consider a friend did everything that they freaking could to take care of their staff first and then their community second, but it was a very close second. The thing that frustrated me about a lot of the government support is it really rewarded a lot of the people who just did nothing and shut their doors, and the ask I have for the community about how they can help is just look at the restaurants who were there during COVID and who stood up and helped the community and helped us get through it, and actually put your money where your mouth is. I got so many comments. I'm sure Alex did too. I know Francesca did. I know we all got comments saying like, we'll remember you when this is all over. Like, thank you so much for standing up for the community. Like, what would we do without you? And don't get me wrong, like that feels amazing to hear. But then when I see that same person in like Benvenuto's parking lot, which is a big giant franchise, like 3 days a week, it has a different impact. And so, like my push for everyone is like, don't just say you want to support local. Like, I know it feels good to tell that story, but like actually do it. Like actually take your dollars and put it with the local small restaurants who are there for you, so that we can keep being there for you, forever. Like that's what we want to do. Like there isn't one restaurateur, Alex included, that is like, yeah, man, I'm gonna make so much damn money at this restaurant, that's why I'm doing it. Like we never have said that. It's always about like, man, I'm going to I'm going to do what I love every single day. And even though I'm working 80, 90 hours, I'm going to fucking love every single minute of while I'm doing it. I think I said the F-bomb. I'm so sorry. Alex, I'm going to transfer to you because I just
Oh,
F-bombed
that is
here.
not the first curse word you have said since you have been on here. So
Oh shit,
don't
really?
worry.
I mean, oh shoot, really? Sorry. I'm a kitchen guy, okay?
I was
Like
gonna
Alex
just
said, we
say
stay in the
that.
back.
You stay in the back. All right. So he actually answered again the two-part question. So if you'd answer it two-part, because he's just stepping inside my brain of COVID, and then the cool stuff you did during COVID to be able to still miss busybody, and you and Sinead busybodies of supporting your community. So
Yeah, I mean, Dave said all the things. It sucks. Anybody that's anybody in this industry knows that it has been so surreal for, I'm jumping on that same train of like, we were all depressed. We drank too much. We didn't know what to do. We still don't. I think some really awesome things that came out of COVID for us and that are still coming out of COVID is just that like undying community support. It's just like stopped me in my tracks. I think we were one of the first restaurants to do a GoFundMe. It didn't feel very good to us, but then like every media outlet was calling us like, we need to do a story on this. People need a feel good story. And my business partner and I are like, this is a feel good story. It doesn't feel very good to us. You know, it was like, I think what was so surprising was we thought it would take months to raise this money. And I think we hit our goal and then some, like in 48 hours or something. And just that just show up. I think Carmela and her husband were texting me the whole time, like, look at this shit, look at this shit. And just that show of support was really something, and reminded us to kind of keep going, and that our community did want us to stick around, and that, you know, that obviously felt really good. I think one of the most humbling things was all the our employees, past and present, that donated to the GoFundMe. I mean, that really wild, just mind blowing. And so I think another thing that happened was, you know, we're in the heart of the city. We're 2 blocks off the Capitol Square. We're the busiest pedestrian intersection in the city. And so with the protests, we got smashed up, our windows got smashed, and our shit got robbed. And I think that we were just, I mean, Carmela knows how I feel about this. We've had so many conversations about it, but it was just so interesting about how enraged the business community was downtown with what was happening, just the ignorance. We're so ignorant as a city. To go back to your question about like, how do I feel about Madison? Well, gosh, we're like the dumbest, smartest city I've ever been to. We're so intelligent and so stupid, so ignorant about why all this is happening, why folks are so rageful, why there's so much pain and trauma in the Black and brown community. We're just so ignorant about it. And so when that happened, you know, our message to the community was like, this has nothing to do with us. You know, there was so many people that came downtown that next day to clean up the streets, and we couldn't stand to look at all the mess. We had to clean up all the protests. We had to clean up all the glass, and we had to scrub all the paint off. And it's like, we didn't want to look at it as a city. It was like so ugly. And then, you know, immediately our city council got to work with funding downtown businesses. And that's all good and well and everything, but like, I'm not a business owner first. That's not first on my list of my identity. It's very low, if any. I'm a community member first. I'm a member of this community and a restaurant worker, just like the folks that I happen to employ. And so I think that that part of COVID, the protest, and how blatant it was about how ignorant we are as a city, was just so, I guess, numbing. It just showed us exactly who we were. I always say like COVID was just exposure, right? All these systems have always been broken. And we've always been just racist as hell and so ignorant. We just, COVID just really, really showed it to us that people definitely value profit over people. And it's never been any different. And we have a really long way to go as a city, and COVID showed us that. Those protests showed us that, and how many people were willing to show up for businesses and not to support Black lives, which is so blatant. And so, yeah, we just have so much work to do. And so, yeah, we're going to keep fighting the fight alongside all the rest of them.
All right, so that was heavy, and I want to lighten it up a tiny bit and talk about solutions, the things both of you are both doing as solution based. I think we can start with Alex. It always feels weird starting with you because I like know all the answers, but we need to tell the public, right? That's why you're here. What Short Stack does for the community. I really would like to hear about who you support, why you support them, your training.
Hey, Demel.
Happy anniversary.
Okay, happy anniversary.
That's the other half, everyone. Okay, so I want to hear about that and all of the things that represent Short Stack. The building, right? You talked about during COVID, and I remember seeing a post from you, like, if one more person emails us about our windows, we don't care about our windows. Go ask people how they are doing today. And I just, you know, loved you even more. But that building does special things, but then also you and Sinead do. And I'd like to hear you talk about that because I have the same. And we know what we're going to hopefully get Dave to talk about with the sign over here of Megan, who's here. Talk about it, Lil John. So I'd like to hear yours first.
I think a big one is how Shanae and I, we both identify as white, able-bodied, cisgendered folks. And I think the biggest work that we have to do is on ourselves. We're racist as hell, just by design. I always just introduce myself to new staff members as just like, I'm a racist in recovery till I die. There's so much work that I have to do in order to not cause harm to folks that come through my doors, whether I employ them or feed them. And so I think the biggest thing, the biggest solution is top-down organizations have to figure out, from the CEO to the executive boards, they have to figure out how to educate, show up, inform, and be honest about themselves as bosses and employers, and as humans, as community members, about who they are as people. And that might look like solutions within an organization might look like, hire brilliant people like Carmela to come into your organization and do privilege training, figure out how to figure out the criminal justice system and all the nuances within those systems to be better employers. That was a big one for me. I did peer support specialist training with Carmela. And for those that aren't familiar with that, it's people that struggle with either mental health disorders and issues and or substance abuse and disorders. And it was just a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-work, and kind of Carmela and those staff members kind of showing me myself, and then figuring out how I take that back to my organization and be a better boss. I also think just a good reminder that Carmela reminds me all the time within my organization that it's my responsibility to tell people when they come work for me that this is who we are unapologetically. And if they don't like our culture or our mission, it's maybe just not the best place to work for them. It's just not a good fit. But we have to make sure that we are explicit and unapologetic about how we operate as an organization and our goals and our mission. And then I think that another thing is that not only the organizations that we support, but the organizations that support us, those true partnerships and collaborations that we can call on when we need help. Because, as white folks running businesses, we for sure need help. There's no way around it. When you are navigating systems like the criminal justice system, let's use it as an example, you're gonna need a lot of help, especially somebody like me that doesn't have a lot of life experience within the criminal justice system. My parents have never been locked up. I've never been locked up. My siblings have never been locked up. So it's just very new to me to navigate those nuances. There's a lot of education that has to go into me being educated, as well as my staff members, to make sure that anybody that comes through our doors feels safe and supported. And so I think that creating those collaborations and those partnerships with agencies like Carmela's and Linda's and other ones in the city are so important for us to make sure that we can call on y'all when we need help and navigating systems. I mean, then there's so many times when I've gotten Carmela on the phone, like, I need you today. Like, I need you now. I need help with this. I have no idea what to do, and I need some insight and some input. And so, yeah, there's plenty. I mean, Madison is so ridden with nonprofits. I mean, there's so many. I think to plug in is super easy, but we wanted to be really intentional about supporting the organizations that could help us as well. There was a selfish side to it too, to make sure that was a true collaboration, and that we really wanted to support organizations that look at root causes of why folks end up the way they end up, why they end up in living in poverty and dealing with homelessness, why they end up behind bars, why they end up with substance use and disorders, like all those things. We wanted to work with organizations that really look at fixing those root problems, and folks like Linda on this call and Carmel are doing just that. And so I challenge employers and I challenge community members to really look deep. Dave said, do your homework on where you eat. I also say, do your homework on the organizations you support and why. I think you really have to look at the leaders of these organizations, nonprofits around our community, and figure out which ones are doing the deep, hard, gritty work, and unapologetically so. And so that's what I think Short Stack has been trying to do. We'll continue to do it, and it will evolve. When we started, when we opened 7+ years ago, we decided we wanted to support a new nonprofit every month. We had this program called Organization of the Month, and we'd highlight a new nonprofit. A percentage of our sales would go to them. We'd support them. It's just evolved so much now over time, where we have 4 organizations that we support all year round, so that we can really kind of dig deep organizationally, and create, like I said, create true collaborations and partnerships that are lifelong, and that can be more impactful in trying to solve these root problems that we are so ridden with in this community. And so, yeah, we're going to keep trying to do what we've been doing, showing up and figuring out how we, from the top down, can be less harmful, less racist, more safe, more supportive, and more real with not only our community and our staff members, but with ourselves. What else? What else? Answer?
No, you did great. I was gonna get you, because you weren't getting to the point about what you actually do to support, because that's who you are. You're talking about this mutuality. You always talk about the organizations give to us and what they do for us. And I'm not saying we didn't, but I wanted you to have a moment where you talk about the great work that you do of social good. You got to let me keep my title.
Oh yeah, shit. We have a theme.
Okay, so thank you very much for talking about all that. And you still didn't cover it all, but I'd have to blank out for a minute and remember all else that you do. And I'll do it while Dave talks. I'm not blank out.
Oh, sure, just blank out while I talk.
That
Yeah, no,
said
it's
that
fine.
wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm totally paying attention to everything you're saying.
Oh, did you just mute yourself and shut your camera off?
Yeah, I did.
Why,
I just want to touch on like what Alex says.
Behind the speakers?
Well, because like I think part of it is like usually the people you see showing off how much they're trying to do for the community are usually the people doing the least for the community. It's like the one thing they do. Like I'll give you some examples, right? And now I feel like I'm touting the things I did, so I'm taking back everything I just said. Maybe I'm the asshole, but like as an example, right? Like between Liliana's and Charlie's before COVID, we had 53 employees, right? And of those 53 employees, 14 of them were adults with disabilities, right? But you don't see pictures on my walls like at Goodwill with a bunch of kids who, you know, they took in the most unflattering picture they possibly could and plastered it on the wall to try and make you feel guilty. Like for those organizations, they pay them sub-minimum wage. They, you know, give them horrible shifts. They make their families pay for job coaches. Like there are all these horrible things that go. As someone from Goodwill, you made a face like I shouldn't be talking about it.
I'm happy. I just
okay.
You're all here and I get to remain quiet tonight.
You just look like, But like that's the thing, right? Like the organizations that usually tout their support of different groups aren't usually always doing it in the way you think that they are. It goes back to that whole greenwashing thing, right? And usually the organization like Short Stack or like Liliana's or like Morris Ramen, like the ones that are sure trying to get the word out about what they're doing so they can continue with their mission is one thing, but there are 50 things going on at those organizations that they're doing 5 times better than any other organization in town. But they're not touting it because they're not doing it for the advertising or the marketing or for the press. They're doing it just because it's the right darn thing to do, you know? You'll notice I said darn instead of a different word.
You didn't cuss
yeah,
this
I'm
time.
doing much better.
All right,
I'm doing much better.
I want to hear you talk about Little John's and why.
Oh boy. Yeah. So Little John's, for those of you guys that don't know, guys and gals and non-binary pals, for all of you who are on here, Little John's is an organization that we're working on, and we are doing like 30 things, but all with one core goal, which is to provide food access for people in need. We take grocery excess, which is amazing, wonderful product. In fact, I'm going to do this thing, which like I know you love. Carmela's like, is there anything you want to show when you're on it? And I'm like, no. And then I'm just going to show you a crappy iPhone video of it instead. But this is what grocery excess looks like, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's like garbage. And here's the deal. Anything that a restaurant doesn't use, you probably don't want to use it, right? Like a good restaurant uses all of its product while it's fresh, and we get rid of it when it's not fresh anymore. With grocery stores, that's not the case. They actually are trying to get rid of stuff before it's bad, because when you buy something from a grocery store, you expect it to be good in your fridge for a week. And that's the big difference. When we get rid of something at a restaurant, we're getting rid of it because it's not good anymore. We don't want to serve it to you. We only want to serve you fresh product. And a grocery store, they're making it so that you can still, as a consumer, purchase it and still have it be good for us. So check this out. This is grocery excess for one day from one grocery store in Madison. So check this out. I'll make sure I get it in that camera. Here we go. Boop. One day, one store. I know Alex is like, that's enough eggs for
Wow.
like a whole freaking day. But the thing that's
Not
so
at Short
important,
Stack.
the thing that's so important, well, I mean, it's literally like 2 grocery carts full of eggs. I mean, you can see as you go through, like there was the first cart and that second cart is literally full to the top. And the stuff that's getting tossed isn't just like, you know, the commodity egg. I mean, most of those eggs were like pasture raised, you know, like amazing eggs that you'd normally pay like $5.99 a dozen for. So we take that grocery excess and we make it accessible to people, and not just people in need, but everyone. I always tell people, like, if at the end of the day, the only people who get served are people who are food insecure, I failed in my mission. My mission is not to have, let's feed the poor people. Like that, I know sounds great on paper, but it's kind of shitty. It's this like saviorism, and it's this like, you know, it's kind of telling people that like they don't deserve to be at the table. Like this is the good table, and like we'll give you the leftovers. Like that's not what we're about. What we're about is like we want everyone, whether you're an attorney or whether you're a school teacher or whether you're someone experiencing homelessness or like you're someone on the verge of homelessness, we want you all to be able to come and eat at the same restaurant. Because that's what we notice. We notice that the difference in quality and product between Liliana's and what you get at a soup kitchen or food pantry were so far apart. And again, conveying that love out to people, you can't convey love with canned goods and stale day old pastries. You know, when we've taken meals over to places like Porchlight, or we've been going to the homeless camps with Feeding the Youth, we've been going to a bunch of them. And man, by the way, any of you guys who want to just have your heart feel a little broken, you should go out there. Like, I know it's easy to just say like, oh, like that's a problem and that's really sad. Here, I'll donate $50 to someone who's doing it. But you should go out there. And I think the reason why it's so important is it's easy to write off or demonize or not think about someone you don't have to face to face. And the example I'll give you that, I want you guys to think about when you walk down State Street, right? Like if I were to ask you, what does someone experiencing homelessness look like? Like I bet you I could describe what you would describe. But the reality is that's not homelessness. And even when it is, here's my challenge for you. Every single time I watch someone walk down State Street, I see one of 3 things when they pass someone who's experiencing homelessness. One of 3 things. First one, which is like the go-to, is they cross to the other side of the street. Like that's almost a guarantee. Like if there's a way to walk on the other sidewalk, people pick the other sidewalk. And then the second one I see is this one, which is like, oh, hello? Yeah, no, yeah, I'm totally on that. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. So yeah, I gotta, and they kind of like walk away or pretend to disassociate. But I think the thing that's so hard is like people forget that the other person is a person. And one of my favorite stories was actually it was like, God, must be like 6 years ago. Tim Metcalf and Michael Johnson dressed up in just some heavy parkas. They didn't put on any makeup. They didn't cover their faces at all. And they're 2 of the most like recognizable people on social media. And they spent 3 days living on State Street with people who were experiencing homelessness, having conversations with them. And not one person in 3 days recognized either of them. So what does that tell you, man? To me, that says that we are treating people like a second-class citizen. We no longer communicate with them. We don't even think about them. So my challenge for everyone is like, do the hard thing. I know it's difficult. I know maybe sometimes because people are struggling with mental health issues or maybe there'll be awkward conversation, be like feeling a bit awkward in the moment, but like just have the conversation. Like ask someone like, hey, how are you doing today? Like, how are you? Like, don't just throw them $1 and be like, well, they'll probably spend it on alcohol, because like, man, I'd be spending it on alcohol. So like, why can't I give it to someone else? Like for me, it's all about treating someone like a human and recognizing that everyone's a human out there. And that's kind of the idea of Little John's, is that everyone can have access to the same healthy, nutritious food that they could at Liliana's, no matter what their circumstances are. Yeah.
So yes, that is what Little John's is. And because I want to give you guys a wrap up one and see if there's any questions. I don't know if we have any questions, but no, not so far. Okay. I want you to tell us what Little John's will be.
So we're building a 25,000 square foot kitchen. We'll be able to pretty much end food insecurity throughout Dane County once we're up and running. We got a lot in front of us. We got to raise about $6 million, but we're going to have 120-gallon steam jacketed kettles. We'll have huge cooking equipment. We'll have a veteran training program where we can train veterans and pay them $15 an hour to learn how to cook. So we can give them job opportunities at places like Short Stack if they want, or if they're interested in more of a safe space that's like 9 to 5 where they aren't used to stress. So something like an Epic or an Exact Science. Or we're also guaranteeing to any single person who completes our 6 months paid $15 an hour 6-month training program, guarantee them a free scholarship for an associate's degree at Madison College in culinary. So like those are just some of the things that we're trying to do with our program. But I think for me, if there was like a takeaway for anyone who's listening to this today, my biggest thing is that we need to change our how we think, and here's how, right? Everybody right now is thinking about micro actions, right? So if I do this one little thing, it's not going to have a big impact. So I always use the example of a soda can, right? You're sitting at your desk and you're drinking a can of soda, and your buddy taps you on your shoulder and says, hey, we got to go to a meeting. So you're like, oh, okay. And there's a garbage can underneath your desk. And you know that up a flight of stairs and at the end of the hall, there's a big blue recycling can, right? And you think to yourself, I recycle every single day. Like, what does one little can mean? So you throw the can in the garbage and you go about your day. And you tell yourself, because I do good all the time, I do that recycling all the time, this one little thing doesn't matter. But here's the thing. This is where a micro thought can change into a huge macro action, good or bad. What if every single person just in the city of Madison had that same thought go through their head just once a week, right? It doesn't seem like a big action, but now you've got 250,000 people once a week throwing a can in the garbage instead of recycling. That's 250,000 cans a week. That's 1 million cans a month. That's 12 million cans a year that end up in a landfill because the micro thought and the micro action is to just throw it away and it doesn't matter. And this is what's so important, right? If you were to ask my dad is turning 70 years old, June 25th. And if you were to ask him in his 20s, where do you see the world in 50 years? Almost every single one of his classmates would have said something along the lines of, oh my God, the world's going to be a different place. We're going to change it. We've got technology at our fingertips. We're going to have, we're going to have colonies on Mars, and we're going to have nuclear powered vacuum cleaners, and it's all going to be so cool and amazing. But I have a challenge for literally anyone watching this or listening to this. I will give you $100 cash if you can find a 20-year-old who's optimistic about our future 50 years from now. It's almost impossible. And why does that matter? It matters because if everyone feels like they can't make a difference, no one's going to make a difference. And so like my challenge for people is to say, hey, like, what if instead of a can, what if my challenge to everyone was every day, I just want you to go out and do one good thing for someone else. That's it. Like, not a big thing. You don't have to start Cook It Forward or start a Little John's or anything like that. But I just want you to challenge yourself to do one good thing a day. That's it. Well, that doesn't seem like it's going to have a big impact. Who would want to do that? Like, that's not going to do anything, right? But let's do that same example of the city of Madison. What if every single day in Madison, 250,000 people went out of their homes to just do one good thing for each other? This would be the most beautiful freaking city in the entire world. And that's all because that micro action changes to a macro action when everyone can just get on the same page. So don't feel like a tiny little thing won't have an impact. It may not today, but if just this story has 2 people on this call tell that story again, and it just gets 2 people there thinking maybe I could do something better, it can grow. And eventually maybe we can change the fate of like where we're headed to something a lot prettier. So I know it's hard.
I've heard you. No, it's not hard. I think it's a small micro thing that can turn into a macro thing, kind of like how you put it. All right, so I have a announcement to make that I want to get in here, because then I want to wrap it up with the hard question I asked Francesca at the end. Describe Madison and what can our community learn? So be thinking of that. But I have a question for you guys based on this announcement. So Justine got a planning grant which is unheard of in a nonprofit. For those that know anything about nonprofit work, they don't give you time to plan. They say, oh, you're going to do this, and then you find out if you're going to get the money, and then you get less than the money, and then you still go do it with less than the money. Ascendium really believes in training and employment, and there was an announcement today, and so we got a planning grant to do a hospitality restaurant management, front of the house, get some front of the house people trained. Dave and I talked about this. I know it's exciting. Dave and I talked about this like a couple weeks ago about, you know, the progressive of how you get front of the house sometimes isn't always through training, it's through need. And so we're going to be doing that. So I want to ask you two, I just want to pick your brains, and this is going to get boring kind of for a second to those listening. But for me, this is the exciting piece because I have two professionals on there. What does the hospitality restaurant management need for training, and what would be the biggest piece that you see that lacks for general manager, beverage service, front of the house, any of those positions? What do I need to make sure that is part of that curriculum as I'm training, besides you guys, because I'll be calling on all you guys too, and Francesca, she already knows, to be able to, we'll be talking about hiring and all that stuff later, but.
Like for me, I'm sorry if Alex is supposed to go
No,
first.
go
I don't
ahead.
know. For me, like the biggest things are like just vetting someone to make sure they want to be in the industry in the first place. Like I don't even hire people based on what their job skills were or what their resume is. I literally just hire them on what their passion is. That's how I interview my cooks too. Like I would take someone who's a high school student who comes to me for an interview and is like, man, I just want to cook. Like that's all I want to do in life is cook. I'm so excited. And they suck. I can teach anyone to cook. I'm not worried about that. I can't teach anyone to passion. So the first thing that would be great was like having it be kind of a vetting system of like, hey, like they've completed a program, so now they know that they can show up. I think also restaurants are continuously hiring more staff than they need because they know that there's going to be a no-show or someone. And I think if someone can complete a course training, that's a great way to already know they're going to at least show up enough for that little bit. And you're vetting, and you're like giving them like, I'm saying like Carmela says it's a good person. So like if they let them down, then you get to go after them, not us, which is a good thing. But for me, the biggest thing on an overall training is the hospitality part has been lost in our industry. I think especially because Madison has so many restaurants, we've lost the idea that a customer is our like person we're there to take care of. And you know, how many times have you guys heard this in Madison? Like, oh my God, I had the best service. Like they filled up my water glass, you know, when it got empty, and like it's like basic serving shit, and I'm like, oh my God, that is not good service. Like that is like at best mediocre. Like I always hated having my parents come to my restaurant because they were the most fucking hypercritical people. And it was the best thing about COVID is I love my parents so much, but they got to do takeout, so they can only judge me for that little bit from the door to the takeout window. But like the stuff that they would judge my servers on were so nitpicky. And I'm like, have you literally dined anywhere in Madison in the last 10 years? Like, it wasn't to justify it. It was like, well, you know, they put the food down from the left instead of putting it down from the right. And I'm like, yeah. So what do you want me to fire them on the spot, or do you want me to like public lashings, or what would you like? Like, I don't understand what you want. Like, they were doing a really good job and the restaurant was packed, and like you guys are really nitpicky. So like for me, it's really teaching about that hospitality part. Like I would love if Madison as a whole could start getting some actual servers. Like most of what we have for our serving industry is college students, especially downtown. And so you don't have that solid base of continuous serving. We've been lucky in the fact that Liliana's out in Fitchburg, so we tend to get a little bit more stability, but I don't think there's a downtown restaurateur that I know who is been able to maintain more than like 60% of their front of house staff for more than 3 or 4 years in a row. I would say that's like a really good, if you're doing that downtown, that's great. But trying to bring some of that stability from outside in. And then the other thing I want to talk about was just when it comes to hiring like African Americans and different people in the front of house, we get judged a lot because we don't have very many African Americans, and by which I mean we've had 4 in 14 years. And so I've been called out, people calling me like that I'm racist, I don't hire. We've literally hired every single African-American that's ever applied at Liliana's, and we've never terminated one African-American at Liliana's. So one of the things I would also love is like a lot of people are looking like Alex and me, like we're looking for like, we want inclusivity. We want to have like, we're not trying to like not have people apply. We want to have people come in. We want to give them benefits and a great pay, and we want to be inclusive. But sometimes it's hard just to get the word out that we are an inclusive place. Like I think sometimes, like, and I've heard this from friends of mine, like in the community of like, we don't feel like we absolutely always fit there either, you know? And so like there have been so many shitty instances where they have gotten a serving job and they've been treated like absolute shit by both the customers or by the owners. Like there is, as much as I love Madison so much, there is some really deep down, like the systemic racism part is really tough. And I know this is
Yes.
totally off topic again, but I call it the quietly lock your door while you're driving by someone who's a different color than you thing in Madison. Like the like, you know, like that, that's kind of like the overall tone of 90% of Madison for me. Or the like, okay, I looked at a black person. Oh shit, I gotta look away. Oh wait, now it looks like I'm avoiding them. Okay, I'll look again. Okay, now look down. Like I watch that happen like 90 times a day, like
Yeah.
throughout Madison. So how do we, like, I would love to like work on getting a more inclusive work server space. And I see the same thing in downtown too. Like I don't see a lot of that in our industry, and I'd love to bring that in where it is an inclusive workspace.
Well, I can teach you how to diversify. See, this is why we're here. I am going to be
I
the
love it.
diversification in your world and teach and you're going to teach me things because I got things you got to teach me, but we're going to be
I'll teach
having
you how
more
to cook. You
conversations.
teach me how to include
be
it.
part of, so one of the pieces of, as we're building it, is that community of restaurants tour kind of committee. So I'll be calling on you, Dave, and we'll educate each other.
I'm so excited.
All right. Alex, what do I need to do? What do front of the house? What do GMs? What do managers or beverage, or if you're thinking in all that field, what do they need? What do I got to give them? Because I'm gonna be calling you anyway. You already know that. You're part of it. We wrote you in. You got to be planning it.
The only thing that I can think of top of mind is, I think having like non-native English speakers. I feel like there's there's such a culture in America specifically where like non-native English speakers just automatically get thrown to the back of house. Oh, like you're a dishwasher because you don't understand English or speak English that well. I think having a culture where non-native English speakers are in front of house, and in turn then non-native English speakers dine there because they feel safe, is like kind of how we get to the root of that inclusivity, that piece of it. So focusing on other languages besides English specifically in front of house, and not just, oh, you're in the kitchen because you wash dishes because you don't speak English very well. So innately racist and such bullshit, and then we wonder why only white folks come and eat at our restaurants. So I think that's a big one, like around language. There's like a big language thing, and I think that can be like pretty cool if you focus on not just English speaking folks.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's outside of even what I was looking for as an answer, but it's like, you know.
Sí, claro, es muy importante que hablar en español todo el tiempo cuando estás con tu gente.
I hang around the coolest people sometimes.
That's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head, and everything Dave said's dead on.
All right. Well, the rest of it I'll talk to you about anyways. Okay, so
we do have a raised hand and a question in the comments.
Do I see a raised hand? Okay. Yes. Will you please read out the raised hand? Oh, I can see the comment. It just opened up my chat.
Okay. Dadit, okay. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you raised your hand.
No, it's Dadit. Hi, Dadit.
Okay. You had a question for us?
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Carmela, and all the crew to put together.
Oops, you muted yourself, Daddy.
That's right. Sorry.
That's fine.
It's never going to be the last, right? I mean, we're all awesome. So thank you again for this event. It's so well crafted. So my question is for Dave and Alex. So first, I'm with Kids Forward here, and my work mostly with ECE, early childhood and education. So I'm glad that Dave, you said something about that food is so much more than just food, but I mean, a lot of people just put on calorie or carb, but then there's so much more than that, the nutrition. And what I've learned in the last few years is that kids 0 to 5 so need that nutrient because that's the goal development. At the same time, the COVID also shows that childcare industry is not well taken care of by anyone. I mean, they rely on private investment from parents. And when parents lost job and the government is limited in support and they're struggling, and food is dropped into the lowest among the low priority. And that's when kids 0 to 5 don't get enough nutrient. And even before pandemic, they're not getting enough nutrient too. So I wonder, I mean, I think it's still very limited that there is like a restaurant providing or catering, cooking for childcare, because childcare alone, they can't cook. Their work is just full, just for providing the care. So this is just a really open question. When you decide your target audience, how would you think, and this is still, again, hypothetical, right? But what would you think of working with ECE or childcare group where not necessarily giving free food, but also just be the preparer, be someone who help prepare the food so that kids can get that kind of nutrient that they need, especially during the 0 to 5 years old. So it's just an open question.
I love that you asked that question, because that's literally one of the main priorities of Little John's is kids first. Our original goal before we decided to go with a restaurant was we originally wanted to do schools. Like, schools have some of the crappiest nutrition in the world, and we're giving, a majority of the kids who get their food from public schools, they need that nutrition, and we're giving them super processed and preserved crap product, and there's lots of waste associated with it. But we needed to have proof of concept for the general public, so we didn't get a bunch of angry people saying you're feeding garbage to our kids, when in reality it's better quality product than we could even order or get in, or any of those schools or resources do already. So we're actually doing a bunch of trial programs right now with multiple different childcare facilities. We're doing programs with Boys and Girls Club. We did, like I said, that big one for Reach Dane. Our actual main priority is trying to get food access for kids. So there's actually someone on the call right now. Her name is Megan. And you can see her right there. She's smiling. She's actually right under you for me. I don't know where she is for you. But if you put your email in the chat, she can reach out to you and let you know how we can help. Because our biggest goal with Little John's is that the efficiencies that you get in a for-profit business are not being applied to the not-for-profit sector. And that's really our biggest goal, is how do we take the efficiencies from a big commissary kitchen like Culver's would have and apply that to the nonprofit sector? Because we found this out. Right now, we're doing all of our cooking out of Liliana's, only for the next 2 weeks though, because we got a new space, which is super cool. But we're only doing this tiny little bit, and it is burning the crap out of my kitchen. I think any of us who did food security during COVID learned just how much it pushes our kitchens to do even minimal amount of effort out into the community. It takes a lot of work and a lot of stress, especially to provide quality. And so one of our main goals is to say, hey, like most of these places, like a nursery or a kindergarten or a nursing home, they'll put in maybe like a $100,000 kitchen, but like that is not enough to try and feed 100 kids 2 meals a day and snack and have it be high quality. So a lot of them have to pick things that are like out of a freezer into a oven, or like pre-made stuff, or like those little cups of fruit cocktail that are like, or canned product, which isn't what we want to be feeding our kids. And we also noticed that the like places like you guys, or like places that are dealing with kids who are food insecure, they don't have enough revenue stream coming in to be able to keep the quality high enough. So you end up buying a lot from places like Second Harvest, which is not bad, but it's not the same quality of food as like a fine dining restaurant would be. So you should definitely reach out, or have Megan definitely reach out to you about how we could help and make it even more affordable. And that's our whole thing with Little John's, is how do we make it
When
more
he
affordable?
opened his mouth up, I was like, I already know what Dave's about to say. Oh, Dave just took on another one, and he's gonna figure out how this is gonna work. And so, yes, I agree. yeah. And that's because it's the food system. If anything that has a part of that food system for you. I mean, I remember us posting on Facebook saying, looking for lunches for JB students and da 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 da. And all of a sudden I got inboxes from Dave. Well, I can drop it off. How many you need when you need it? So Alex, do you have anything you want to add to that about youth? No? Okay. So, um,
And then there was one more, I'm sorry, really quick. There was one more question
yes,
that
I was about to ask
asking,
that. On
yeah,
what basis do customers decide to pay for a meal at Little John's?
great question. We get it a lot, and I'll be really quick because I know we want to get to the final question.
Yes.
The final question. Sorry. But we get asked that a lot. And I tell people, you already know how much to pay. And I'll give you an example. What if you came to Liliana's and there was a cup of soup on my menu and I charged you 23 cents for a cup of soup? I guarantee you no one would buy that freaking cup of soup because if you like, what is it? Like a dirty cup with like a smudged spoon and like a splash of sauce in the front, right? And at the same time, if you came to my restaurant, even though it's a fine dining restaurant and it was $49 for a cup of soup, none of you would pay $49 for a cup of soup. I don't care if it was just like a bowl of fresh shaved truffle. If it had the word soup after it, no one would pay for it, right? And so for me, I bet you that because I've asked like whole groups of people, if I say, how much should a cup of soup be at like a fine dining restaurant? Almost everybody says between $5 and $7. And if I ask you at a carry out restaurant, how much is a cup of soup? Almost everyone says $3 to $5 for a cup of soup, right? You know how much. If you want a sandwich, everyone knows like it's at like maybe at the lowest 7 and maybe up to 12 for a sandwich. If it's like a pasta dish, maybe it's like 8 to 13 for a fast casual carry out. Like we already know, we already have our set expectation for what we're going to pay. So all the pay what you can does is it gives you the ability to say, hey, maybe I have a little bit of extra cash today. Maybe instead of paying $7 for that sandwich, what if I pay 10? Or hey man, I had a great week. I'll pay 15. That's fine. And then maybe there's like a mom who's got 3 kids and $6 in a checking account. And someday she might be able to pay back or pay more. But maybe for that day, maybe she just needs a place to get her kids a warm meal filled with nutrition where she's not being judged, where she doesn't have guilt, where she doesn't have fear of being judged. And she could just feed her kids without them even knowing that she didn't have enough to pay for it. And maybe she can just pay $1 that day. And guess what? No one has to know. Like that's the best part. There's no guilt and no shame. When you take, and again, soup kitchens are great and food pantries are great. I'm not knocking any of them. But how many of you guys who have kids would want to take your kid to a soup kitchen or a food pantry? I think there's a lot of guilt. I think there's a lot of shame, even though it's unfounded. There's a lot of guilt and shame around those items. And for us, it's to break down that barrier to not have another boundary for people to just get healthy, nutritious food. So hopefully I answered your question without ranting too much.
You always tell a story, but it's how you tell the story. It's part of how you talk. I do it too a lot when I talk about JB. There's something that lives inside of me that has to come out, and there's always a story. It's how I talk.
Well, I think it's hard. I think it's hard though. Like
because you're
we hear,
relating.
well, yeah, and we hear
yes.
data all the time. Like how many of you guys over the past year have heard so much freaking data in Zoom calls? It just
I know
all goes
way
in
too
one ear and
much
out the
about
other.
the microbes of what comes out of different places during COVID. I know way too much. Just want to change the subject. Okay, so listen, hard one. And I want you guys to be honest as Francesca was. I know you, I don't even got to tell you guys to be honest because you guys have laid it out tonight. Describe Madison in your own words. And what does our community need to do to make it even better? What does our community need to know and educate themselves in to make it even better? Alex.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. I've already said it. Madison. What do I think about Madison? I think it's the dumbest, smartest city ever. We have a world-class research university like right over there. And we somehow are just like the most racist city. And so I think what we can do collectively, a big one we just saw recently is like local government, right? Local elections. City council comes to mind when we see city council making big decisions for folks that currently don't have housing, currently can't afford housing. That's a big one. I think that's fresh on our minds. So local elections, I think, is a big one where we just kind of need to step aside. And when I say we, I mean people that look like me. And we can't just step aside. We really, really need to do everything within our power to support folks that are running for local campaigns that historically don't have the resources to run a campaign. Elections are very, very expensive. Campaigns are really expensive. And that's a huge barrier to folks in local government and national government. So I think local elections, I think, is a big one that is very easy. It's very easy to educate yourself a little bit, support campaigns of folks that are living within the margins, and the work starts with yourself, right? If we think we're such a smart city, which I know we are, we can continue to show up and educate ourselves about just how racist we are. We can't break down these systems unless we know what the problems are, and so it's got to start with educating ourselves and letting some other folks run the table.
Thank you. All right, Dave. What is Madison to you in your own words? Describe Madison, and what does our community need to know for it to be better, and just general knowledge? What does our community need to know?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, Madison is a home and a family for me, but I think just like home and family, a lot of it can be broken. And even though you still care about it and love it and want to support it, it can have a lot of broken aspects to it. And I think the hardest part is being able to first admit that there's something wrong, which I think is one of the biggest problems Madison has, is that we always think we can fix it with money, or we can fix it with, likes and shares and all of that. And although it feels good, it doesn't really change shit. And I think there needs to be more conversations like this on a broader audience. I think there needs to be transparent conversations with elected officials who really can be held accountable for what they think they're saying behind closed doors. I don't think we'd have the legislature we have today if everything was very transparent about how it is and we didn't have alternate media kind of changing the lay of the land. I will end with this. This is my little spiel, and I'm so sorry. It's another story. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
I love
You know
your
what?
stories.
I'm not sorry.
No,
I'm not sorry. I'm gonna go ahead.
Your stories
I'm
are
gonna
great.
tell a
Go
story.
ahead. All
Here's
right.
my story. My story is this. It's more of like a lecture, but like in a nice way. I think the biggest problem in the world today, and this also holds true for Madison, is that everybody thinks they're good, right? Like if you were to ask anyone, are you good or are you bad? Most people would think that they're good. And that's even people, like, I don't want to offend anyone or get political, but let's just call him the old orange one, right? Like even you have no idea what I'm talking about. I know I'm being very coy, but even he doesn't think he's an evil person, right? Like he still thinks he's good. Hitler probably thought he was good. Like people intuitively think that they are good people. And that's shit. And here's why it's bad. As soon as you think you're good, you stop striving to be better. And I would put this on every single person on this call, me included, Alex included, Carmela included, Linda, all of you guys on this call. You guys are all good people. You wouldn't be listening to this phone call if you weren't good people. But here's the thing I used to do. So before COVID, I would get like 1,000 people in a room and I'd be having a conversation with them and chatting with them about like Little Johns or whatever. And I'd ask them, right, how many of you are good? And no one would first raise their hand. But then after I was like, okay, are you evil then? No, okay, we're good. Then most people would raise their hand. I'm like, okay, cool. To make sure you know you're good, let's do a quick thought experiment. Here's what I want you to do. How many of you guys right now, if I pulled up a bus outside, how many of you guys would go downtown with me right now to go feed the homeless just for an hour and I'll get you back home safely? How many of you? And sure enough, like almost every single hand went up, except for a couple people who thought they were being funny, right? But almost every single hand went up. And I was like, that's amazing. Okay, put your hands down. I got a question for you. You guys are all good. We already proved you're good. How many of you guys right now in the audience in the last 6 months have gone downtown to help feed the homeless? And sure enough, like 3 hands went up out of 1,000. I'm like, there you go, right? But maybe I was being too specific. How about this? How many of you in the last 6 months have gone out into your community and helped someone that in no way benefited you? So it couldn't be your church, your school, anything like that. You just went out and you helped a random citizen in need who needed help. How many of you guys did that? And now maybe 55 people problem, right? When we are pushed to or asked to do good, most of us instinctually will rise up and do the good thing when we're asked. But if we don't constantly ask ourselves every single day, what can I do to be better? We're never gonna do the better, right? And so if people ask me all the time, like, why do you do so much in the community? It's because literally I every single stupid morning wake up and I'm like, okay, what can I do today to just help someone in need? And it's just as much like we talked before about that micro action versus macro action. If every single day you can just flip that switch to say, hey, what could I do today to just help someone in need? We could make this a really beautiful freaking country. We just need people to start thinking this one single action is making an impact. I am helping someone. I'm making a difference. And enough people feel that way, all of a sudden we're living in a really freaking beautiful world. You know, like that is my push. That's my ask for everyone, is just like every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, can I do something good? And like just find a single action to do it. And it's not to prove to anyone.
An action.
An
Yes,
action.
an action to do good, an action to do social good, an action. Because I think that the belief is that I am good and I am doing good, but what is the action behind it? I think that's a really great place to end this. I can't believe we talked 2 hours. I was thinking, am I going to be able to keep these guys talking? I could have kept you guys talking actually another 4 hours.
You brought me
if you
on,
weren't.
so like I literally won't shut up. So yeah.
No,
yeah.
stop. Yeah. You know, you're taking from yourself way too much tonight. Stop. Okay,
Mwah.
so let's end with that. Social good means getting up every day, no matter what your position is in the world. They've said it and they've said it over and over, and doing an actionable thing for your community. Small things lead to big things. Micro leads to macro. And on that note, I want to thank everybody who joined us. Thank you, Alex. And I will send Francesca a great big thank you. I said good. And thank you, Dave, and for you guys spending the last 2 hours of your evening, of your crazy busy lives, being able to let the community have a peep inside of what it means to do social good and be in the restaurant business. So I appreciate you, and good night.
Good night.
Right.